next Friday. And today we're going to add to this stuff. So if you don't know how to do this stuff, you're going to struggle today for sure. All right, so if I'm evaluating an expression, what's the very first thing I look out for? Gabby. We look for parentheses, and we look out for anything that's grouping. So that negative thing here, our absolute value. So we need to do that 10 minus 2 first. 10 minus 2 is 8. So we have 8 squared divided by 4 times 2 minus, what's the absolute value of negative 35? 35. Okay, cool. All right, I took care of everything that has parentheses that we have stuff to do. What's my next thing? Yeah?
You multiply the 8 and you add up the exponent?
We do our exponents next. Yes, we'll do our exponents next. So that would be our 8 squared. Hey, let's make sure we pay attention. Okay, so we have 8 squared, which is 64, divided by 4 times 2 minus 35. Here's where most people kind of mess up, especially like in high school when they kind of forget their rules. We're done with exponents. We're done with parentheses. What's next?
Multiply and division.
Multiply and divide. How do I decide which one to do first? Because I see I have a 4 times 2 and... What was that?
Left and right.
We have to go left to right. So should I do the 4 times 2 or should I do the 64 divided by 4 first?
4 times 2.
We actually do the 64 divided by 4 first because we work left to right. So this is the first thing we can do from left to right. We're going that direction. So we're going to do that 64 divided by 4. And what's 64 divided by 4? If we got calculators, what was that? 16. Are we go with 16? We got calculators. Let's check it. A lot of us are just staring for some reason at each other. We should probably look at the board.
16.
16, we'll go with 16. Okay, good. And we still have that times 2 minus 35. Now we can do the 16 times 2, which is 32, minus 35, which would just equal a negative 3, is correct. Did we write any of that down? No? That's okay. We just got to recombobulate, okay? We have a test next Friday, so we have to really pay attention. So our next one's a little harder, too. When I have a division bar, remember we have to do a top and we have to do the bottom. We have to do the top and we have to do the bottom individually. So if we look at the top, what do I have to do first? What's my first step on the top?
3 plus 1.
We do have to do that 3 plus 1 because it's in parentheses. So I'm going to kind of do this up here. Because I don't know how, we'll see if I can fit it. I can't fit it below. I'm going to start up here. So we're going to have that equals 3 plus 1 is 4. So I have 4 times 10 squared minus 5 cubed all over 1 minus. What do I do on the bottom first? I do the exponent, so we'll do the 6 squared. So we'll have 1 minus 36 plus 10. All right, the top I have to do my exponents first before I do any multiplication. Remember, exponent's my next step on the top. So I have my 10 squared. So we keep the 4. We keep the 4, and we change that 10 squared to 100. Minus 5 squared is 5 times 5, which is 25, times 5, which is 125. All over. On the bottom, we just have subtraction and addition, so make sure you work left to right. So we're going to do 1 minus 36 first. Yeah. 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 Making sure we're staying up on it. We should have 100 there, right? All right. We do our first 1 minus 36. 1 minus 36 is a negative 35 plus 10. Like I said, left to right. All right. Now on the top, I do have a multiplication. So we'll do that first on top. So 4 times 100 is 400. Minus 125. On the bottom, I have that negative 35 plus 10, which is a minus 25. Good so far? All right, now the top, we have to do the 400 minus that 125. I'm going to move over here. Do we get 275 out of that? Good with that? Divided by negative 25. What's 275 divided by 25? Yeah.
Minus 11.
Minus 11 is the correct answer for that one.
Exponent on this type of calculator.
5 times 27 divided by 9. Should I do this 27 divided by 9? Because that's easy to do.
Yeah. Or no.
Which direction do we work?
Left to right.
Left to right. What's the first thing that appears? The left one, which is our multiplication, right? So we have to do the 5 times 27. You can't decide which one looks easier. You have to go to the furthest left one, and that is 5 times 27. What do we get out if we do 5 times 27? 135. Does 9 go into 135?
It's 15.
It is 15 times, and that's your answer. Okay? Good on that? Okay, make sure you practice your calculator because you don't want to get to the test and not know how to use it. Other questions from the homework? Questions going once? Going twice? Okay, then we will start today's lesson. This is our last lesson before the test, and that is evaluating expressions. Now, we've already evaluated expressions, right? That's what we did with the order of operations, but we're going to evaluate expressions when I give you variables to plug in, to substitute in. So we're talking about substitution today for the most part. So what is an algebraic expression? An algebraic expression is an expression that contains one or more what are called variables. Do you remember variables? Those are where we have those letters like X, Y, Z, A, B, C. So when you're looking at variables, we typically use letters. Typically what we do. But if you look back here on the board, I was trying to show an example to a student. And do you see how I use smiley faces? That's just a variable. That's just an unknown variable. So I just put a smiley face on it. It works just like X or Y. All right. To evaluate the ones we're doing today, we're going to substitute. What was that? Okay. We're going to substitute the variables with the given values. Then follow the order of operations. So if you did what you were supposed to do, and you went home and you did your homework, this part's going to be pretty easy for you. Today is going to be pretty easy for you. Because today, I'm just giving you an expression. We got to plug in some numbers, and then we just need to solve it. So, for example, we'll start out pretty easy. Number 1 says 7 times x plus 4 times y. Remember, if there's no symbol between it, it's multiplication. 7x is 7 times x. 4y is 4 times y. But then we go over here and it says x equals 5 and y equals negative 3. Now here is a rule you need to do when you substitute numbers in. You need to substitute using parentheses. So what I'm looking at is instead of 7x, we're going to write 7 times, what does x equal? 5. So we'll write 7 parenthesis 5 plus 4 parenthesis, what did y equal? Negative 3. And now we're just doing order of operations. So we're going to go ahead and go, oh, well, that's 7 times 5, which is 35. Plus 4 times a negative 3, which is a negative 12. You okay? What was that? 23 is correct. Because 35 plus a negative 12 is the same thing as 35 minus 12, which is just going to equal 23. And you can confirm it.
Should we use number 2?
If you want to start, yeah. Always make sure everyone finished number 1. All right, number 2. We should have 9 times, and I'll open up parentheses. What am I putting in this parenthesis? I'm going to put 4 because I have that parenthesis in place of a. So we'll do 4 squared minus 2. Instead of b, what are we going to put?
7.
We're going to put our 7. Thank you. 7 squared. Now I see I have some multiplication, some subtraction, and some squaring. What do I have to do first? The squaring, the subtraction, or the multiplication? Squaring, because those are our exponents. You always have to do your exponents first. So I have to do my 4 squared and my 7 squared first. 4 squared is that 8? 16. Oh, I added, didn't I, instead of multiplied. So we would have 16 minus 7 squared is 49. All right, now I'm left with multiplication and subtraction. What's next? Multiplication or subtraction? Multiplication. Realistically, what one should I do first? The 9 times 16 or the 2 times 49? We should do the 9 times 16 first. Waddell, can you pick up your head, please? Thank you very much. What's 9 times 16? 144. Whew. Malia had that one, right? All right, now we are going to subtract 2 times 49. Is that 98?
2 times 49?
Yep. 98, so we're good with that.
146.
146?
I was 46.
Or just 46? Do we agree with Campbell's 46? Yes. Okay, let's step it up. I have a times c minus d divided by c times d. So if I have 8 times, instead of c, what am I putting? 2. 8 times 2 minus d. It looks like we're putting in a negative 4. Here's where it's important that we use the parentheses. What happens when you subtract a negative?
Positive.
It turns into a positive. Bless you. Do you think that's an easy thing to forget when you plug in your d? Very easy. That's why you always use parentheses, because you're going to miss this and have completely the wrong answer. All right, then we're going to have divided by. C times d, well, c is 2, and d is negative 4. Parentheses first. I start with this parenthesis. What do I have to do first inside of here? I have to do exponents. Are there any exponents? Nope. So we drop down to multiplication and division. Is there a multiplication inside that parenthesis? Yeah. So we're going to do our 8 times 2. I believe that's 16. And we might as well take care of this minus thing and change that to a plus. Remember, when you circle these, circle both of them to let yourself know they both turn to a plus. And then we drop down our 4. And then we have divided by 2 times a negative 4. Am I done with my parenthesis? No. We have to continue on that parenthesis train. So can we do 16 plus 4 without a calculator? I would hope that's 20. So we now have 20 divided by 2 times a negative 4. Now, don't shout anything out, okay? Just think about my question. I see I have 20 divided by 2 times a negative 4. We're not shouting out an answer. Should I do my 2 times negative 4 and get a negative 8? Or should I do my 20 divided by 2 first? And we're not shouting anything out. We're just thinking about it. Which one should I do first? All right, who thinks they know what they should do first? Should I do that division first or that multiplication? Yeah. We have to do that division. Can someone explain why we have to do division first? Waddell?
Because it's
Mm-hmm.
so it's left to right.
It's left to right. We have to work left to right. So we have to do 20 divided by 2 first, which will give me 10 times a negative 4, and we end up with just having a negative 40.
Negative 40 is finally it.
What was that?
Never mind, I got it.
Yep, negative 40 is our final answer. All right. I don't think we need to do all of these, do we? I just put like lots of examples in case we're struggling. Let's skip to. Let's look at number 6. Let's do number 6. And then I'm going to kind of cut you loose on your groups to work together on the rest of the lesson. And then we'll cover that stuff. All right, number 6. Number 6 says 2/3 x squared minus 5x plus 8, right? So instead of x's, what am I going to write? I'm going to write 6's, parentheses 6's, right? So we're going to have 2/3 6 squared minus 5 times 6 plus 8. Does that look right so far? Did I make any mistakes yet? Okay. Parentheses first, right? Are there any parentheses I actually have to simplify? No, because it's just a 6 and a 6. They are what they are. All right. Parentheses, do I have any exponents or square roots? What do I have? I have a squared, so I have to do that 6 squared first. So we're going to have 2/3 times 36 minus 5 times 6 plus 8. I did my exponents. Now I have to move on to my multiplications. I have 2/3 times 36. Does that 36 go to the top or to the bottom of my fraction? It actually goes to the top because 36 is really 36 over 1. So I'm actually going to rewrite this as being 2 times 36 over 3 minus 5 times 6 plus 8. Just in case you're unaware, we can do that 2 times 36 on top. 2 times 36, that's going to give me 72 over 3 minus 5 times 6, which is 30, plus not 80, but 8. Did I make any mistakes yet? Campbell, you still working? Yeah. Okay. Are we good with what we have so far? Okay. We have one more division left. We have 72 divided by 3. Can I do that division?
Yes, it's going to be 24.
It's going to be 24. So now we have 24 minus 30 plus 8. Let's not cover it up. Let's actually do it. We tracking so far? Okay. Now, should I do the 30 plus 8 or should I do the 24 minus 3 first? I got to do that 24 minus 3 first. And 24 minus 30, 30? Did I say 3?
Yes.
Well, that'd be a much different answer, right? Because 24 minus 3 is 21. 24 minus 30 should be a negative 7. Oh, nice catch. Negative 6 plus 8. You guys okay?
Yes.
Okay, negative 6 plus 8 is?
2.
2 is our final answer.
Yeah.
Are we getting this?
Yep.
Is this something we can do next Friday?
Yep.
Let's see, because I would like you to finish this back side. I would like, what was that? Do you want me to go through number 5? Okay, the question was, can we go through number 5 before we do it? We can absolutely go through number 5 before we move on. All right, so number 5, we are replacing r's with negative 5, right? So instead of 2 times absolute value of r, we'll have 2 times the absolute value of a negative 5. Minus 3 times our r is negative 5. Our s is 4. Now remember, we do all of our grouping stuff first. So anything with parentheses or absolute values. So we have to do absolute values first.
So it'd be a 5.
It would be a positive 5, right? Because I have a negative 5 and an absolute value. We take the absolute value of it and it turns to a positive 5. So we are now going to have 2 times 5 minus 3 times a negative 5 times a 4. All right, what's 2 times 5? 10. And then we have minus, do you see this chain of multiplications? I have to do that negative, see that 3 times that negative 5? What's 3 times negative 5? Negative 15. So don't I have a negative 15 here? Times 4? What happens if we subtract a negative? It's going to be a positive. So you see that those two negatives that are back to back, right? Those need to turn to a positive. So I'm going to circle both of them. And I'm now going to have 10 plus that 15 times 4. Waddell, can you keep your head up, please? So I have 10 plus 50. I have to do that multiplication first, right? Because that's PEMDAS. Multiplication first. So we'll do that 15 times 4. So we should have 10 plus 15 times 4. Do you get 60 out? Yes? And 10 plus 60 is going to be 70. Gabby, do all those steps make sense? Good. All right, now I'd like us to do the back side.
As a group?
So the harder one. I'd love it to be as a group as best you can. These are much harder, and I would like you to work through them and ask questions. Particularly when we get to like number 12. 12, we have a fraction in it. 12, we might actually do together eventually. All right? But I would like us working. Hey, can we all look up? If you're working and you got like a whole bunch done, you can keep working. It's fine. I'm talking about you guys that are out there that aren't doing any work. And I don't mean any work. I mean you're just throwing things in calculators and just asking me, are these correct? And you're not giving me anything. So let's all look up here. Let's look at number 11. Let's look at number 11. And here's my advice to you. Every person that you look around that's got a bunch of them correct for the most part has been showing work along the way. So let's look at number 11 together. Number 11 says 28 minus 4y squared all over xy minus 2x squared, right? Should I just automatically be plugging things in my calculator right now? No, what should we do first? Change the variables. It's not that hard. And we're going to get it wrong if we don't do this. I'm also going to take off points if I can't read your work. So maybe a couple of us need to pay attention to this. Like Dylan, Campbell.
Hi, Dylan.
Let's make sure that we have the work that I'm doing. I don't do it for my fun. So when I'm starting this problem, I should at least see this. 28 minus 4 times my quantity, my y is negative 5, squared, all over, instead of x, I should have a negative 8. I should have times a y, which is negative 5, minus 2 times my x, which is negative 8, squared. Can we all look up here right now? Campbell, let's look. If you don't have this, even if you get the right answer, I'm not giving you full points. You need to learn how to be able to write things clearly so other people can read it. If yours does not have this in here, you are losing points, even if you get it correct. Even if you get it correct. You need to have at least this step. And I should see organized steps following this. So the next thing I should look out for are parentheses. There's nothing being done inside these parentheses, right? So then we move on to exponents. Now I have an exponent on top, I have an exponent on bottom. We can do those together. So we have 28 minus 4. What happens when I do a negative 5 squared?
Negative 5. Like square.
Negative 25. Wait. Yeah, negative 10. Wait, positive 50.
It's negative 25.
What happens when you have a negative 5 squared?
It's just positive.
It better be a positive 25 because negative 5 squared is negative 5 times negative 5, which equals a positive 25. Now, those that told me it was negative 25, did you use your parentheses in your calculator? You're going to get it wrong every single time. You got to be smarter than your calculator. Either you got to be aware that you got to put parentheses, or you got to know a negative squared is a positive. So we have negative 4 times a positive 25. All over a negative 8 times a negative 5 minus, what happens if I have a negative 8 squared? What happens when I have a negative 8 squared?
Keep forgetting how to do it.
All right, we need to all just stop.
64.
We need to look up here and help me out with this. Everyone stop. We're all focusing on this one. What happens when I have a negative 8 squared?
Positive 64.
Is it a negative or a positive 64? It's a positive 64. So I have 2 times 64. Okay, on the top, we have a multiplication, right? So we have to do this first. So I have 28 minus, what's 4 times 25? 100. On bottom, my multiplication, we do multiplication left to right, correct? What happens when I have a negative 8 times a negative 5? It comes out to a positive. It comes out to a positive 40. Minus 2 times 64, 128. Whose pencil is it? So on top, I have 28 minus 100, which we should have got, what, a negative 72? A negative 72. All over 40 minus a 124, is that a negative 88? What happens when, go ahead, if you need to sharpen, okay. What happens when we have a negative divided by a negative? So we're going to get a positive. Is there a number that goes into 72 and also goes into 88?
11. Yes.
At the very least, 2 goes into it. It turns out 8 goes into both of them, right? How many times does 8 go into 72? 9 times. How many times does 8 go into 88? 11. Our answer is 9 over 11. Yeah, we're doing really well. People that are writing out every single step are getting these right every single time. People that aren't are constantly guessing at what they think the answer is. Am I asking too much for you guys just to go step by step on these? No. That's why I'm going to take off points if you're not doing that. Even if you get it correct, I'm going to take off points because I can't read your work. And you need to keep this stuff organized because the couple people in this class that are doing it this method have gotten it right every single time. There's not a single person in here that's just doing the scramble method and is getting it right without asking questions. Like, is it 4? No. Is it 10? No. We have to go step by step. Are we clear on that? Okay. Are there any that you'd like to see done right now?
Number 8.
Oh. We'll just hold off on 12. Maybe we'll do 12 on Monday. We'll make sure that we can do number 12 because that's a tough one. But I can check your answer if it's correct. I could do number 8.
Oh, yes, number 8.
Okay, number 8 says square root of 3p minus q minus p squared minus p times q. Now, remember, on the test, I'm giving you a point for just knowing how to plug this stuff in, okay? So if you just do this, you already have 1 point. If you type in, oh, that's the square root of 3 times 10 minus my q, which is 14, minus p squared, which is 10 squared. And instead of p times q, we're going to have 10 times 14. Now, the reason I give you a point for this, because I'm going to take away a point if you don't do this. If you don't do this and you just try to plug it in your calculator, you automatically lose a point. I need to see that you understand that 10 goes in for the p's and 14 goes in for the q's. Are we good with the setup? I don't want to move too fast. Good. Okay. Now, do you see the square root? That works just like a square or even a parenthesis. You have to do this first. What's under the square root, you have to do first. You have to simplify what's in here first. So that means the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do the 3 times 10. Well, that's going to be 30. And then we have minus 14. Minus that 10 squared. Minus that 10 times 14. All right, now I can do that 30 minus 14, which is 16, minus 10 squared, minus 10 times 14. I'll give you a second to catch up on that. You better believe I'm not going to try to give you a super hard square root on these. If done correctly, square root of 16 should be like, oh, I must have did that correctly. Because if you type in square root of 16 in your calculator, you should come up with 4. Because 4 times 4 is 16. I'll give you a second to reconfirm that. But that should be something we just know. Square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 16? Hang on. Where's your square root button?
Right here.
That's square. Where's your square root button?
Which one is that?
It's the one that has that one right there.
Oh.
So we have to hit second and the square button.
Second square button.
There you go. Now type 16. You got to know how to do that, okay? So now we have 4. Well, let's take care of this exponent as well. 10 squared is 100 because we're on our squares and square roots. Minus 10 times that 14. I have 4 minus 100. 10 times 14 is 140. Do you see how much easier these problems are if you just do them step by step instead of trying to plug everything in your calculator? So now I have 4 minus 100. We got to do that first. 4 minus 100 is a negative 96 minus 140. And negative 96 minus 140, I'll give you a second to...
Negative
6 minus 140.
Which is negative 236.
Negative 236 is the correct answer.
What was the answer for 11?
For 11? I got to leave this one up there for just a second.
It was 9/11. 9/11.
Thank you. Yeah, 9/11. Do you need any of those steps up there, or do you got that? You got it? Okay. I'll go back to number 8. So this is what I'm looking for on your homework. It better look nice and neat like this for the most part. You might have skipped some of these steps because maybe you did 2 steps in one as long as you did it correct. But it better look neat or you're not getting the points for it. Because 90% of you getting this correct every single time is writing it neatly. The other 10% is knowing how to take like square roots and square stuff. But 90% is just slowly going through these. If you don't have time to do it like this, then you're definitely going to get it wrong because you're going to rush through it and you're going to get it wrong. So even if you're on your test and you're running out of time, write it out neatly because that's worth more points than you just rushing through and getting no points. So take your time on every one of these.